Voice of Industry.
Voice of Industries.
Hello, Edouard Perroy. I'm glad to have you today on Voice of Industries to talk about one very hot topic, energy and decarbonization. Could you first start by introducing yourself and your activity at Roy Engineering?
So, thank you very much. So, I've been working 15 years in the decarbonization topic and energy sector. And I recently created Roy Engineering, especially dedicated on finding degrees of freedom of the industrial assets. And the objective is to reduce the CO2 emission and finding the best optimum with energy consumption and working with all the flexibility potential of those equipment.
If I understand well what you mentioned, what you propose is a kind of systemic approach, because when we listen or we hear about energy optimization or decarbonization or flexibilities management, often we think that these are three different topics, but to what I understand, your approach is global and systemic of this subject.
Exactly, yes. It's basically finding the cross-section between the physics, economics, and techniques, and finding the best way of, for instance, for a few decades now, industries is like a racing bike. So we want to have like lean management, as you know very well in Optimistic. So it's trying to have the best production as quick as possible, but without considering the energy and the impact on the environment. So the objective is more to to create a mountain bike, let's say, so with suspensions, with kind of resilience on the energy and on the impacts on the environment.
Okay, it's a very interesting image. So when you work with industrial, first, how do you start? Because it's a topic which is quite new, or I would say it's hot, as I mentioned before, but a lot of industrial don't really know how to start for that. So how can they make the first step towards this kind of approach?
First of all, data is the core topic. So we need to collect data as much as we can in terms of process and inputs, outputs, energy, emissions, and etc. in order to model the system and investigate for the degrees of freedom, as I said before. And this is the basics in order to then optimize the system globally, including all the externalities, let's say, so the energy prices, the CO2 prices, the emission factor of the grid, and etc.
So after that, when you have collected this data and you figured out what you have to do to go further, what are the kind of action or investment industrial can do to implement these specific actions?
Yes, indeed. It's you have two ways of taking the problem. Is first of all is to optimize the existing. Mm-hmm. So just finding the best tuning you can have in terms of advanced process control, for instance. Mm-hmm. So finding out the good tuning of your process, including the energy, which is usually not taken into account in the overall picture. But then, if you want to create even more value, it's a good idea to think about new degrees of freedom. So, for instance, electrifying a process, including new dual energy system, and etc. in order to be able to mitigate the market volatility in terms of energy and CO2 emissions also.
I'm sure that there is a lot of industrial who dream of having this kind of capability to choose between energy in those day we are living currently
Yes,
with
definitely.
high volatility. Having said that, it means that you have flexibilities, but it means that you also have to take decisions regularly to adapt your operation condition based on the externalities, as you mentioned, energy price, CO2 emission tax, etc. So, concretely speaking, how can you do that?
So it's either, depending on your objective, it can be before, like for simulation purposes. So in order to invest in your equipment and make sure that you are choosing the right new vector to in order to be resilient. So this is more back office simulation in terms of data and historical data from the markets and whatever. So this is, well, upfront approach. And then in order to dynamically decide between which energy you should use or which set point you should control on a specific process, for this we need first a low layer system, so more automation system, on which I am working as hard as I can, so to adapt this little tuning of the system. And obviously on the upper layer you need to have data collection, data lake, and an optimizer being able to to produce the right incentive to the actual equipment above.
To be more concrete for our listeners, could you give us some example of what can industrial do in some sectors, to, concretely speaking, to have this dual energy system or to increase this flexibilities?
Yes, I might take the two easy example. Well, mainly, for instance, for steam in the industrial sector. So it is usually produced from natural gas. So it's a big majority of the production. Those boilers are quite, being old or not sufficiently efficient, and some sites are studying the replacement of those boilers. And this is a good opportunity to actually move to an electrical boiler. Is a electrode boiler, which is quite large capacity or smaller on the direct Joule effect boiler. And when you combine those two boilers, you are a fantastic auxiliary being able to either work on the gas or on the grid, and being able to manage between the different prices of the different vectors in the system.
So this is your first example.
Yeah.
And the second one?
And the second one is quite related, but it's also heat, especially furnaces in the steel factories, for instance, or aluminium factories, on which they are all usually on natural gas also, and we are able to combine electricity with gas in order to again do a quite flexible asset for the CO2 reduction and the energy resilience.
To what I understand, it seems that all this requires some quite important investments. In France or more generally in Europe, what kind of system can help industrial to finance this kind of investment?
This is the biggest topic, actually, the return of investment. Usually, classical return of investment of a usual industrial is 2 or 3 years, and for decarbonization is much more. It's 6 or perhaps 10 years. So indeed, subsidies is definitely a good lever to making things happen. So currently, France, Germany, UK are doing a great job to incentive all the industrials to decarbonize. So this is clearly the first the first big impacts on capex. Then, what we are promoting in the approach is clearly to include this energy resilience, to being able to actually, if let's say in the future, if you do have this flexible asset, you will be able to actually generate more revenues from this flexible asset if you wouldn't have it before. So this is also a part of the story to accumulate the different revenues from this flexible asset in order to cover the OPEX.
So you talk about flexibilities. To what I understand, you mean that industrial can valorize this flexibility. My question is how?
You have two means to valorize this flexibility in terms of active power consumption on the asset. Is first of all, you have your supply contract, so of electricity with your electricity provider, so you are able to adjust potentially your profile according to specific prices they may need in their portfolio. So this is more on the OPEX, on the commodity of the electricity. And then you also have all the public markets, so especially with the TSO, so the service operator of the grid, with specific mechanism that you can use, and you have plenty of aggregators very good to optimize this equation. So, for instance, primary control or secondary control on the grid is very well valorized currently.
To summarize, first it's just optimization according to the price of electricity, depending on the time of the day you are consuming, so you can adapt your consumption profile. And secondly speaking, is to valorize this flexibility to provide services to the grid system, and you are paid for that.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
There is one component we didn't talk about, is the energy efficiency as itself. What is its place within this whole system you propose? Because we talk about the fact of reducing CO2 emission, the fact of having more flexibility and to be able to valorize it. But is it an opportunity also to reduce your energy consumption?
Yes, and well, if I can say one word around that, if you want to decarbonize, you have basically 5 means to do it. The first one is indeed, consume less. So with energy efficiency, sobriety, optimizing the resource or the input, and indeed this is part of the objective to consume less in order to do more or better, let's say. Well, second one is as we know, the energy provision, so from renewables, for instance. Recycling is extremely important also to avoid to create new materials and etc. So then a fourth one is as we mentioned before, all the changing the assets. So electrification is a way of decarbonizing our industry. And lastly, which is clearly not in the scope, but the CCUS, so the carbon storage, in order to globally
remove the carbon at the end of the chain.
From the atmosphere. Yeah.
Okay.
But indeed, energy efficiency is one of the first. At least consumption reduction is one of the first topic to address.
So let's say I want to start this work around decarbonization from my plant. How should I start, and what would be your advice?
So I would say in one sentence that the very first thing to think about is the strategy of the company. So make sure that the objective of the strategy is aligned with what we want to do is aligned with what is possible to do on a specific environment on site and with the existing technology.
Okay, so that means really a company strategic project. So you need to have a clear focus on the challenges you want to tackle, and also I think to be able to bring everybody together to implement this kind of approach? Because to what I understand, it will touch management, but also operational teams, and you have a lot of people involved in this kind of projects.
Yes, definitely, and we need to use the best skills on site at the very beginning. So our approach is more a collaborative engineering.
To what I understood, there is an important technological aspect of this kind of approach, because you mentioned specific equipment, specific tools around data. If we focus on equipments for decarbonization, what is the current situation? Is it mature? Did you identify the proper suppliers of the solution for the industrials?
I do think that we have no time to wait, actually. So we need to use all the mature technology that we have in hand right now. So, and we do not try to think about the future potential of a technology. So, and we have plenty of technology available on the market to cope with this decarbonization objective. So electrical boilers is known for a long time. Electrical furnaces, same thing. Hydrogen production, for instance, is quite new, but still, quite new. It's not new actually, but it's the change in scale it's now actually. So you have many different technologies that are available right now, but the main topic is to make sure that to choose the right one, and to be able to play with those technology rightly, in order to have not too high capex and not too high OPEX in the future. And so this is clearly the plan, to embed again new degrees of freedom on a given industrial system.
Edouard, to conclude, what is your advice to industrial in order that they succeed in this decarbonization challenge?
We need to work all together. We need to collaborate on all the area of competencies that we do have at different levels. So we need to create a proper ecosystem working toward the same objective of reducing the overall emission. So, and reducing the emission is one thing. Indeed, it's fully necessary, but we know that we need also to preserve our industries, trying to even potentially increase the sovereignty of the different European countries. So this is also a matter of working all together to do a great job together in the climate change action, but also in the societal action together.
When you mean collaborating, do you mean within the enterprise, or it's something wider?
Both, actually. Obviously, within the enterprise, you need to, within the company, you need to work from the operator toward the management and all the different layers you can have. But also, we need to create a real ecosystem with the different entities, different parties working together. So from the equipment providers to the energy providers, the solution provider like Optimistic, and the public governments and so on. So yeah, it's really a general ecosystem which needs to work together.
Thank you very much, Edouard, for this insights.
You're welcome.